Well folks, this is what it's all about, a good old proper cup of tea. And look at this, I've been promoted. I got my own cup. Scrimper UK. My daughter and grandson bought me this for Christmas. Scrimper UK, and on the side it's got a picture of my black German Shepherd dog Paddy. And there's Mrs. Scrimper and myself out on the bike. What could be better? I'm going to have myself a nice cup of tea now, and before we put the Hoover back together again. Talking of Paddy, here he is. He's come for his biscuit, look. He's a greedy dog. Yeah, Paddy. That's Paddy, folks. He's always close by watching me, whatever I'm up to. He's always getting into mischief as well. Goodbye, Paddy. Right, I laid all the bits out there so you can see what's what. You'll notice I've got some new carbon brushes. The reason I'm going to change those is because looking at these two, they've got unequal springs on, and I'm a bit suspicious whoever put those in, whether they put the same grade brush or whatever. Anyway, I thought while I was doing it, I'd put, you can see the difference in wear there. It's not that great. Those things have got a lot of life in, but I didn't like the look of them with the unequal springs, and we've got to do, well, we've got it apart, might as well do it properly, so I'm going to replace those. You also notice the fan pulley, perhaps so I can hold it a bit near the camera. That's the old one. I don't know whether you can see it, and you can, there's the replacement. If you notice how it's shiny around there, that's the actual rubber belt has worn that out, and you can see it's much fatter around the middle there. So as well as stopping the belt from skidding, it'll give a better drive. So I thought, well, I've got one there, I might as well replace it. That's a brand new fan pulley there, so I should replace that as well. That would still work, but you know, it has been slipping a lot, and it is amazing how a rubber belt can wear a metal pulley, really, but it does. Anyway, let's get on with putting it together. That's all the bits. I'll just push those away a little bit so I've got room to work. I'll make sure the camera can see. Now, we don't need that half for the moment. That's the cover part. We need this part. So the first thing to do is take your armature, your ball bearing, which I showed you being greased earlier, and that fits on there. Just pushes on, just a push bit. Nice and smooth. Then you want the sleeve bearing, which I've lost, which was here somewhere. Look at that, it's gone. Where's it? Oh, there it is, over there. Sleeve bearing. That just puts on the end there. It's a good, you're not supposed to do this, but I'm going to do it anyway. I always get a little tiny smear of grease off your grease gun or whatever, and just put a little bit on the journal there. Officially, according to Hoover, they always used to say that these phosphor bronze type bearings are impregnated with grease in the factory, and as they wear, they release the grease, and so you shouldn't put more grease or oil in because it makes them wear quicker. But we've always found it's pays to put a little bit in, it makes them that much smoother. Okay, so we've got that bit done. That was easy, wasn't it? Now you've got to have the field coils. I'm going to leave that bit of paper somebody's put on there. It's not doing any harm, and it might be that they had a problem with spacing, so we'll just leave that. Make sure you get it right way round. There's two screws there, look, and there's two holes in the casing that hold it in place. Don't put it in yet, because the armature's got to go through. So what you do, you pop your armature through like that, and then you've got to lower the assembly into the casing, making sure that the sleeve bearing has got a square section on one side. It only goes in one way. Front bearing, it doesn't matter, but it's a good idea to put the holes where they won't allow the dust in so much. So we'll put them about that thing. The back bearing should just press in, but this one is a little bit tight, but I think it's gone in anyway. Having done that, make sure the bearing, this bearing is pulled as far forward as it can go, and then get your clamp, that's that one, on like that, and then you want two self-tapping slotted head screws, that's those two, to hold it in. Just pop those in there like that. Okay, screwdriver, ordinary screwdriver, slotted screwdriver, tighten those up. Don't over tighten them, or else you'll lose the threads and then you will have problems. They need to be tight, but don't over tighten. Okay, that's that though. Then you've got to put your rear clamp on. Goes in that way. There's a thread in that part, but not in that. So what you do, you turn it over and you pop the screw through that way. Get your Phillips or POS driver. You needn't tighten it right up at the moment. Take your other screw and poke it through that end there, and then you've got the little nut to put on the end. Make sure you get the right one. Those are the large ones, that's the small one. That goes on there like that. Fiddly little thing that is. There you go. Now it has got a hexagonal shape on the casing, so it will hold it in place. So if you press it in with your finger, you can do it up with your screwdriver. Probably better off, actually, I'll just do that one up. that big screwdriver, as I explained, is for getting the motor out. When you're doing the normal work, you're probably better off with something like this, a smaller screwdriver, or even one of those, probably better, because you can, it's easier when you've got a short handle actually. Make sure they're done up tight, but again, don't over tighten because you don't want to lose the thread. Right, that's that part done. You've got the two bearings in and clamped down. Now, the important thing that was missing in the when I first took it apart, was that little seal around there, and I've got one here. You can hardly see it, it's like a little bootlace, and that fits in that slot. It's a bit fiddly and it will try and come out, jump out, but it is important to put it in there. It just sits around there like that, and it just seals the two casings to stop dust ingressing through. Alright, can you see that? Don't matter about the top, it just presses down in there. It's that bit that's important, where it seals there. The next stage, before you put the cover on, you must put the carbon brush in this side, not this side, this side. So take your carbon brush, pop it in, like so. You can hold it in with your finger like that. Then you need the carbon brush retaining plate. That's that little piece there, if you can see that. Right, pop that on there. Can be a bit fiddly if you're not used to it. It can be fiddly even if you're used to it. And then you've got that one wire. Make sure it's seated correctly. Then you need your screw, but make sure it's the shortest screw. If you put, that's the shortest one. If you put the longer screw in, you'll have problems. It will press on the casing, and then the brush, you won't get good commutation. It's a bit fiddly. You can see I'm holding it with my finger. I'm holding the spring back, the plate, the screw and the wire. And then just get your small screwdriver. This is a bit big actually, but it'll do. And screw the screw in there. It's got a thread in the brush holder for it. That's that. As you do it up, make sure the wire doesn't twist. Do it up any time. That's that job done there. That's in there. The only other thing we've got to do now is put the bolts in the fuel coils, or they'll rattle about. So turn it over. Those are the two holes there. And take your two ones with shakeproof washers on. The little black screws with slotted heads, and pop those in there and do those up, and that will hold the fuel coil in place. Notice I haven't put the fan on yet. There's a reason for that. It doesn't need to be on at the moment. There we go. Right, now when you've done that, give it a turn, make sure it feels alright. The noise you can hear is the carbon brush rubbing on the commutator down there. When you first start this up, because you put new brushes in, it will be a bit noisy. You'll hear the brushes until they bed in. As it wears down, they'll get quieter, but it should give good commutation anyway. So that's that part of it. Next part, you've got to be a bit careful this wire. You see somebody soldered this on in the past. They do tend to pull off sometimes, so be very careful when you put the top casing on. You've got a little slot down there. Can you see that little slot? That's where this wire goes through. So basically all you've got to do is, it's a bit of a fiddle, poke that wire through the slot. I'm trying not to pull the wire off because I don't want to mess about soldering it again. I do solder them, but I don't like. Hold that over the top, just get it roughly in place. Important thing to remember is, make sure your terminal block locates in there. If you tighten it up and that isn't in the right place, it'll snap the casing. Pop that round like that. Make sure it all fits together nicely before you. Don't try and force it. It should fit together by hand like that. Then it's just a question of putting your bolts in. Don't forget what I said, you need the long bolt in the back, and it only goes in that way because you'll see there's hexagonal slot there for the nut. Pop your long bolt in, one of the nuts, poke it in. You can hold it with your finger like that, and at the other end just get your normal slotted screwdriver and do that one up. That's that one. Don't do them too tight because this is Bakelite and it will crack. It's fairly brittle. Same with the front. Two screws, one in the short ones in there. Pop your nut in. Hold it with your finger. Screwdriver. Piece of cake, isn't it? That one. It's not really difficult. I suppose if you've not done one before it might be fiddly. Right, that's that bit done, okay? The only other thing to do there is this one here. We've got to put the carbon brush in there, and there's just one wire to go in, so we'll pop that in now. Make sure you don't notice there's a little bit of fluff on there. Just clear that out. It's not doing any harm there, but if you shove the brush in and that fluff goes in first, it might stop the brush hitting the commutator and then it won't work. So it's a good idea to make sure it's not there first. Now you've got to hold the spring down. Get your little plate on top like this. Press it down. Push your wire over, get your little screw, make sure it's the right one. As I say, there's different ones. That's the only one left on this one, so that should do. That's both brushes in now. Now at this stage you can put the fan on if you want. I'm going to put the gasket on first. The actual gasket that goes around the motor casing, it was a bit worn. I've got some new ones, so I'm going to put one of those on, put a new gasket on just to make sure, because the old ones stops all the dust getting in around the outside of the motor and in the casing. Right, next job is to put the fan on. So put your little spacer in first, then the washers. There's 3 washers there. It may vary, you may have 3 or more or less, and then your Paxilin insulating washer, then your fan. Right, so we've got the fan on, we've got the gasket in, all done up, all the bolts are tightened up. There's just this one wire to fiddle with now, so you just poke that through there, and that lies down, poke it in the corner there, look. And that just lies down in there. There's already one wire in there. There's the little TV chokes. Those are to stop it interfering with television, by the way, in case you wonder. And there should be a little screw somewhere. I'll probably put it over here in my little tray of bits so I wouldn't lose it. And that's probably the one. That pops in there. Little screwdriver. Go on in, that's it. And that's it. So basically that's about it. So the next job is to put the motor back in the casing.